Welcome to the Pitch Your Pick podcast, the podcast where we dive deep into the sports books, find our favorite plays, and pitch them to each other to find the best bets every day. I'm Joe. This is Jer. How you doing today, my man?
I'm doing well. I had a quiet day at work, so that's always a good day. I actually don't have much else to say because I said everything last night, I think, on the podcast about getting a new house.
Yeah.
So I'm still living the dream.
Living large. We love it. We love it. We love it. Now, the one thing that you're not living large in is the bets from last night. I mean, my guy,
No,
what
sir.
happened? What happened?
I got screwed in every single one of them. Vegas outshot the Flyers like 44-28 or something like that, just like I said was going to happen, but Carter Hart stole the game somehow again. Dallas was leading with, I don't know, 10 minutes to go left in regulation. They gave up the lead. And I personally bet that Miles Bridges 3.5 bonus play, and that thing lost on the hook. So it was just an ugly night.
Yeah, I mean, luckily for me, Kyrie Irving dropped 50 points, so I didn't even need to worry about any of his assists for that play. That was gorgeous. Real simple and easy one. I think he cashed that sometime in the second quarter, so we love when that happens. Don't even have to worry about the second half. Miles Bridges was a little bit closer. Was at 22 going into the fourth and easily cashed that out. Luckily, he picked up the points and assists because I think he dropped a good 23 and covered that again without even needing the assists. So luckily, if you went with the main play and didn't just do the assists, you'll be good. I went with both points and assists and just assists, and I got a little fried on the second one, but it's all good, You make some mistakes every now and then. So either way. We can cover some of these NHL games. Now, we have an absolute barn burner. So many NHL games to cover tonight. I mean, just look at this. A whopping 2. How are they looking, Jer?
For a game or for a day that only has 2 games, it's actually not bad. I have bets in both of these games, so I'm going to talk about those later.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's becoming a staple of the podcast. Anytime the Canadiens play, you're making some sort of play on them, so I guess I'm not too surprised. And then when it comes to the NBA, we actually do have quite a bit of games tonight. And Jer's actually compiled a little cheat sheet for some player props that we'll cover after our bets. And we'll just talk about the ones that we haven't already talked about for the day. So Celtics, Hornets, we talk about this game. It looks pretty interesting. Bulls and Pistons, really only going to be watching this for tomorrow. And maybe Sadiq Bey, our guy out there. Suns and Heat's going to be a weird one just because there's still no Booker or Chris Paul, I think. And I think also Cam Johnson is out. So it's really just the DeAndre Ayton, Mikal Bridges, and Cam Payne show, which has been fun to watch, but it's not really why we tune into games. Hawks, Bucks will be a decent one. With Lakers and Rockets, we were talking about this one a little bit earlier. We fully expect LeBron James to sit and Russ to put up 40 bricks in a game. So it could be a fun one to watch. Thunder's Timberwolves, no thank you. Magic Pelicans, no thank you. Mavericks and Knicks, will be talking about this game a little bit later. Spurs and Raptors, the 6 is coming out. Should be a interesting one. And the Nuggets and Kings will also be talking about. These are the 2 series. Probably going to be a 30-point win for the Jazz out there, so we can gloss over that. And then for college basketball, some decent little games. My Syracuse Orange are playing at noon. So I hope my professors at college are ready for me to watch in that game when I show up, because it's just kind of written in the stars right now. I'm going to be doing it. They just got to get ready for it. I know. I've told them I'm a Cuse fan, and they're playing at noon. So my apologies already. Anyway, we have some decent ones. Is a lot of these tournament games that are going out right now. I'm not even kidding. I spent so long looking at a lot of these bets. I just didn't really have too many I'm comfortable with the lines that were out. I do think this Boston College Wake Forest game can be pretty nice, but I do think Wake's going to take it. I was interested in the Arizona State covering the spread against Stanford, but I wasn't too confident in it. Overall, Xavier Butler could be a pretty good game. Again, I was looking at this Oregon State one, but a 9-point spread I wasn't really loving. Just a lot of nice games out here tonight, including Vermont, 21-point favorites against Binghamton. Interesting one. All around looking pretty. And in this Colgate game as well. Where is it? Colgate and Navy. The reason I didn't pitch this Colgate game, even though I think that they're going to be 6.5-point favorites, is because the reason I wasn't here for Sunday's podcast was because I was working a Colgate game. And I can't tell if I have a bias because I just watched them absolutely trash on Lehigh, and that's why I want them to win. So I decided not to pitch that one because I really couldn't tell what I was feeling there. But overall, a decent set of college basketball games could be pretty fun. So anyway, we're going to start it off. We talked about this, and Jared's just going to get those wonderful 2 NHL games right out the way, and then we can start with some basketball after that.
Yeah, so the first game we're going to look at is the Washington Capitals at the Edmonton Oilers. So far this season, the Capitals have been one of the best teams on the road in the NHL. They have a 16-10 record and are the third most profitable team on the road in the NHL. On the other side, we are going to see an Edmonton Oilers team who has been all over the map this season, from starting as one of the hottest teams in the NHL. Then through December and most of January were one of the worst teams in hockey. They lost 13 of 16 games from December 1st to January 20th. Recently, the Oilers have been starting to slide again. They've only won 4 of their last 10 games, and they're currently on a 3-game losing streak. The Capitals haven't been playing that well recently either. They're 5-5 over the last 10 games, but they're currently on a 2-game win streak. And in the last 2 games, the Capitals have played some good hockey. They've combined for a goal differential of 9-2, beating the Seattle Kraken 5-2 in their last game. And the matchup before that, they beat the Carolina Hurricanes 4-0, which is no easy feat to shut out the Hurricanes. The last time these two teams, it was actually a very competitive game. The Oilers ended up winning the game 5-3, but the shots were actually tied 27-27, so it was a fairly back and forth game. It should be noted that the Capitals were playing off a back-to-back in this one. But it also really doesn't matter tonight because they'll be off a back-to-back again. When the Capitals are on a back-to-back this season, they're 3-1. But the Oilers will also be on a back-to-back tonight where they're 3-4-1 with no days rest. These two teams match up very evenly beside one another. And I think in a game where tired legs are going to be a factor, I typically lean towards the bigger, more physical team. And that would be the Capitals in this matchup. So I like the Capitals to get the win tonight, and I'm going to take them on plus money again here at plus 110.
Okay. I like it. I will say they're not the most consistent, but I mean, when you were talking about the Oilers, I went and looked. I don't know if I've ever seen a team go from so many W's in that result column to so many L's in the result column. Like that is just that's kind of wild.
It's wild, and it might start again here with the way it looks.
I'm saying that, but actually, one of the games I was looking at earlier, West Virginia. I was checking out them earlier, and it almost looks the exact same. They started out the season 14-2 or something like that, 13-2, and they've lost 14 of their last 16 games since then. So I guess parallels. That's exactly why I didn't decide to bet that game, because it was just. But yeah, I mean, as you said, the more physical team probably winning out. I don't have much experience, but you made it sound convincing, so I guess I'm gonna have to. I'll go with it, and I'll give you the dubs on that. But I will say the last time you went with 2 even teams, it kind of bit you. So just saying, be wary.
Yeah, no, it's 2 good teams, but I just like the Capitals' physicality though, and when it comes to the Oilers, they're fairly soft, weak, superstar, skill-driven team. So I just like that when tired legs come into play.
Yeah, fair
But
enough.
I'll dive right into the second game, I guess. We'll talk about the
it.
Montreal Canadiens traveling to the Vancouver Canucks tonight. And obviously it's another battle of 2 Canadian franchises, but it isn't one of the storied rivalries that we see like the Canadiens and the Maple Leafs or the Battle of Alberta. However, I think it's still going to be an exciting matchup. Both of these teams have been on fire recently, both winning 7 of their last 10 games. Both teams are also currently on 2-game winning streaks and will be squaring off tonight in Vancouver. The only time these 2 teams have played this season was actually back in November, where the Canucks were able to squeak out a 2-1 victory. I don't really think we can take much from that game. The Vancouver Canucks started to turn their season around back in the beginning of December and have been playing a lot better hockey recently. The Canucks are scoring 4.40 goals in their last 10 games, but allowing their opponents to score 3.80 goals over that same time span. At the other end, the Montreal Canadiens had an abysmal start to the season. There's no round about it. However, as I've said on the podcast many times before, since Marty St. Louis took over as head coach, the Canadiens just have been on absolute fire. This new top unit of Caulfield, Suzuki, and Anderson has been so much fun to watch. They've been flying up and down the ice. They've only played 92 minutes together so far this season, but it already looks like they've found like mid-season chemistry form. These three guys have scored 6 goals together while only allowing 3. They have a scoring chances for percentage of 53.8 and a Corsi percentage of 51.6. They're creating a ton of chances while they're on the ice. The Canadiens have found life behind this new top unit, and with the move of Caulfield to the top line, I think it's unlocked some more depth scoring from their bottom lines. And as I stated before, the Canucks have been on a tear recently in the offensive end, scoring 4.40 goals per game. The over is actually hit in 9 of the last 10 games for the Canucks because they can't stop anyone either. Over the last 10 games, the Canadiens are 6-4 to the over. However, the Canadiens are the second most profitable team to the over in those last 10 games. They're 8-2 to their team, or there's second most profitable team to their team total over their last 10 games, and they're 8-2 to the team total. They've just had more success stopping people recently, but also haven't played the same quality of competition as the Canucks. I'm having a hard time to get a read on this game because it's not really, you can't really bet a straight money line in this because Vancouver's favored by -200. And I don't really love them to win in regulation, and I don't really love Montreal to win. But what I do know in this game is goals will be scored and there will be a lot of them. So I'm going to take the over 6 here. I think I see a 4-3 win for either team here.
Fair enough. I mean, we've talked about the Canadiens, I think, many times that I'd like to admit as a Leafs fan.
And
I will say, I think you really pitched this one with significantly more energy than you did the first. So I feel like I'm already a little more for it than I think you were with the other one, just because you came into this one with energy. I like that. But
the other one I am a little iffy on, but I do like this. I love this one. This might be my favorite. I will say,
yeah. Both of these teams seem to be scoring quite a bit in recent times, and you put them against each other, you might be seeing a little bit of the same.
Two teams that can't stop anybody. Let's have at her.
Sounds like that Charlotte versus Spurs game that we were talking about a bit earlier, and we love that one too. So you know what? Gotta give it to you. All right, so we'll bring it over to the NBA because I have 3 bets here, and you've already you've taken up all of our time with 2 bets. Jesus Christ, already 13 minutes into the podcast. You need to relax. We'll take it over to the NBA, and I'll start it off with our first bet in the Knicks and the Mavericks game, where it's honestly, this one's pretty simple for me. It's just a Fouguet spread. I just think that there's no way that Luka Doncic covers 15.5 points, rebounds, and assists. I'm not going to say no way. I just think it's a little bit unlikely that Luka gets over this line.
Can I jump in right there?
Go ahead.
Can I jump in? That line is absolutely ridiculous. Forget about pitching that pick to me. That line is ridiculous. 50.5.
Yeah. Well, there is some reason to it. Now, I think over the full season, Luka's hit this less than 25% of his total games. But if we actually look at his last 20 games, he's hit this line about 55% of games. So, recently
I'll check that number for you right now.
He's been cooking a little bit. And this is including, 41-point performance against Golden State, where he also had 10 rebounds and 9 assists. He had last game against the Spurs, 35, 16, and 7. He had 34, 11, and 2 against Golden State again. 45, 15, and 8 against LAC. 51, 9, and 6 against LAC. So, he's been cooking lately. But I think just in general, 50.5 is just such a wild spread out there that it's going to be really tough. And when you're looking against a Knicks team who is 9th in least points allowed, 15th in least assists allowed, and 12th in least rebounds allowed, it's just looking like it's just not a great matchup for Luka to really get his typical, near 30-point triple-double every single night. I think these two teams have played once before. Yeah, right here. 108 to 85, and it was 21, 11, and 5 for Luka, so still a great game, but he fouled out, and it just wasn't, or had 6 turnovers, didn't foul out, but he had 6 turnovers, and it just wasn't really his night. I think the fact that both of these teams play insanely slow, the Mavericks, at the slowest pace in the NBA and the Knicks at the 27th slowest pace in the NBA. I just don't really see Luka ever really getting above that 50.5-point line in this game, despite how great his recent performances have been.
Yeah, I actually think I found the reason why it's 50.5. So in his last 10 home games, he's covered 8 of them.
Yeah.
But I still think you'd have to be an idiot to bet over on 50.5, even if it hits.
Yeah, I mean, I will say recent performances are saying that it can.
Especially in this matchup. Like, you have the 25th ranked pace team against the 30th ranked pace team.
There's not going to be a lot of running in this game.
This thing is going to be slow moving.
Yeah.
20 dribbles or 20-second dribbling out the clock, running around, firing up a brick. And I just don't see it. Yeah,
I will say, and another thing going for this is the fact that
and it's not even like in a slow paced game like that. The Mavericks offense is going to be crazy. They're not that efficient. Luka isn't that efficient himself.
No. He gets to the line. That's about it. That's his main thing. He gets to the line occasionally.
I mean, he's coming off a game where he won an Oscar. So who knows? He might go federal to try and redeem himself from the public shame he took from that. But who knows?
And the Knicks do like to foul. But I mean, in general, despite recent performances, I think just the pace of this game, the fact that they now have Dinwiddie, who's giving even more guard depth to this Dallas Mavericks team, and the fact that I just don't think the Knicks are very consistent. I think that this 50.5 is just a bit crazy. So I'm going under on this with Luka Doncic. I do expect that he could, blow me out the water, but I just think the smart play on this is just take that under on 50.5. Just, I don't see it.
Yeah, I don't. I love this play. I would never bet over on this.
I knew if I came in here and I said over, I would get ripped.
I don't care. I don't care if he hit this thing 10 straight times. I'd be fading it every single time after that. Well, I wouldn't be fading it, but I wouldn't be betting it either, because I like even when you bet 50.5 over, that's just insane. That's so high.
Anyway, let's move on to your first NBA pick here.
Yeah, so I'm actually gonna skip over what my first pick was gonna be, but because I think we're gonna talk about the same game. So I'm gonna move to the second pick, which I think is actually still playing at the time of recording. So excuse me if some numbers are a little off here, or not having a complete set of numbers in the last game.
I think the game actually just finished while I was pitching that last pick.
Okay, well, you can give me a score in a minute.
Okay.
So the Washington Wizards are traveling across the country to take on the Los Angeles Clippers at the Crypto.com arena.
We love the new name.
Both of these teams will be have been playing some pretty decent basketball recently, I guess you could say. The Wizards have covered 3 of their last 4 games, and the Clippers have covered the spread in 7 of their last 10, which will actually still be accurate no matter what with the result of this game that Joe's going to tell us about in a minute. Okay, now I need a score for the Clippers game.
All right, Golden State won 112-97.
Okay, so Golden State just embarrassed the Clippers at home, and the game before that, the Clippers also got embarrassed by the Knicks. They failed to cover that spread by 28.5 points. The Clippers should be angry coming out of the gates, I guess, after just being obliterated twice in a row. At the other end, you've got the Washington Wizards, who have now covered 2 games in a row. However, on the year, they're 0-2 in games they've played in the Pacific time zone. I know that's a pretty small sample size, and it's kind of a gimmicky stat. But both of the games that they played on the West Coast, they got annihilated. They lost by 20 to the Suns and failed to score 100 points. And Booker and Ayton and Chris Paul barely played minutes in that game after the third quarter. And the Sacramento Kings, they only managed to score 105 on the Kings, and they ended up losing by 14. And they're one of the worst defenses in the NBA. Recently, the Clippers defense, it has been getting the job done. Over the last 5 games, they're only allowing 105 points per game compared to the Wizards' 120.4. I think the difference maker tonight will be each team's 3-point shooting. The Clippers have the fourth best 3-point shooting percentage in the NBA, and the Wizards have the 25th ranked 3-point percentage. These teams are very competitive in other aspects of the game. However, I think the Clippers are the stronger defensive team here, and just in general are a much stronger shooting team. And being at home, I like the Clippers to get hot from 3 here. I expect the Wizards to come out cold and start slow. So I'm gonna lay, I think it's 4.5 points with the Clippers here.
Okay, I don't hate it. I mean, I think the one thing that could be concerning is you might have a bit of a honeymoon phase right now for the Wizards with Porzingis in the lineup. But I don't disagree with the idea that the Clippers should be coming into this game with some firepower. But I think the fact that they're coming off a back-to-back, and Porzingis is now on the Wizards, it could be a bit tough for you. But yeah, I don't think it's that bad. I'll go with it on it.
Yeah, I like the I just don't like the Wizards. I'll believe it.
Well, I mean, when Kyle Kuzma is your leading scorer, rebounder, assist man, like,
and I just don't think Porzingis is a guy that's charging any kind of honeymoon.
I will say I do. I love the matchy with the Sprite and the hat. It looks good.
Hilarious.
Love how just straight face you said it. Anyway, I'll be moving on to the next game. You said we'll probably be talking about this one together. We'll be talking about the Celtics and the Hornets. And I'll be picking a little player prop, and I'm going to assume, just based off of some conversations that we had, that he'll probably be taking a spread on this one most likely. But we'll see when he starts talking. But he's done for now. Anyway, I'll be looking at Marcus Smart, and I'm going to be taking the over on his points and assists, which is at 19.5. Though I think some books still have it at 18.5. So if you can sneak it out there, I obviously love that a lot better. So it's going to be great. So Marcus Smart has actually kind of cooked the Hornets the last few times that they've played. He's really just kind of been insane against them. Now, the Hornets did just let Kyrie get 50 on them. I don't think Marcus Smart is going to be doing that, but it is a pretty good example of what guards can do to this Hornets team. And in all 3 games against the Hornets, he was able to cover this game very easily, this line very easily, including 2 games where he dropped 20 points and 30 points, so covered the line by himself just on points, which is awesome. The Hornets are allowing the 29th most points, 28th most assists this season, 29th, or the second most 3 attempts and makes, and we all know Marcus Smart, he does not hesitate to chuck any sort of open shot, and I think that's why he likes this matchup against the Hornets so much, is not only do the Hornets not really play that great at defense, but there's just so many opportunities for him to chuck it up. He has taken 11 shot attempts in each one, and in every single game, it's been 6 or more 3-point attempts, including one where he took 9. Like, Marcus Smart just, I think, loves this matchup because he can get out and run and just absolutely launch a lot of these threes, because when he gets the opportunity, he goes 6 of 13 against the Brooklyn Nets and just absolutely hoops against them, which I love. Now, on top of this, the Celtics offense has just been looking really great recently. Marcus Smart has been able to just pass it to anybody that he wants to, and they're absolutely knocking down those shots. They've scored 120 points in 5 of the last 7 games, and he's had 14 and 9 in that last game against Brooklyn, where Tatum scored 54, which is one of the things that could be concerning, Tatum going off. But I think the fact that he had 14 and 9 and easily covered that line still, I think actually makes me feel a little bit better about that. I just think we're going against the second fastest paced team in the NBA. He's taken, those 6 shots from 3 every single time. He's going to hit a few of them, and I think it's going to be a pretty easy one, especially considering he's been just passing the ball great with this new Celtics offense. And if Tatum can get hot again off some Marcus Smart passes, I mean, it's just going to be a pretty easy line for him to get out here.
Love it. Love it.
I just think, it's just money, man. The Celtics are rolling right now, and I think, it's just Marcus Smart is just finding his groove. And again, I think he just loves this matchup, man. He says LaMelo and Terry Rozier. Yeah, this is cake. Thanks.
Yeah, I love it. I'm going to tell you why right now.
Let's go ahead.
So the Celtics are coming into this one as 6.5-point favorites. I believe it's the return of Jaylen Brown. I say return. I think he only missed like maybe a game, maybe 2.
Mm-hmm.
Coming into this one, Charlotte has been playing okay basketball recently. They're 4-4-2 over their last 10 games, and are coming off an against the spread loss to the Brooklyn Nets last night. At the other end, you have the Celtics, who have been playing very well recently. They're 6-4 against their spread in the last 10 games and have covered in 3 straight. The Celtics are also coming into this game off of a game against the Brooklyn Nets, but they actually covered the spread by half a point and won the game straight up by 6. So far this season, the Hornets are 2-1 against the spread versus the Celtics, actually, even though the Celtics are 2-1 straight up. Both of these teams are pretty good in general against the spread and have polar opposite play styles. The Hornets are a team that just wants to run and never slow down. And on the other side, the Celtics are one of the best defensive teams in the NBA. They like to limit transition baskets and really have no issues slowing the pace down and playing in the half court. As I mentioned, the Hornets played last night, so they will have tonight will be the second game of a back-to-back. And so far this year, when the Hornets haven't had any rest, they've been absolutely abysmal. On no days rest, the Hornets are 1-11 straight up and 3-9 against the spread. The Boston Celtics are not the team you want to play on tired legs. They're one of the best defenses in the NBA, if not the best. The Celtics rank 3rd in opponents' points per game, as well as 2nd in opponent 3-point percentage and 1st in opponent field goal percentage. On the other side, the Charlotte Hornets couldn't really guard a parked car at this point. The only way these guys win is by outscoring other teams. On the year, the Hornets ranked 28th in points allowed per game and 20th in both field goal percentage or opponent field goal percentage and 3-point percentage. The scary part about the Hornets is obviously their offense. They score the 2nd most points per game. However, they're not that efficient. The Hornets rank 17th in field goal percentage. And I think the Celtics will actually provide somewhat of a tough matchup defensively for LaMelo Ball and Miles Bridges. The Celtics offense can be somewhat inconsistent as well, but the Celtics have their defense as their backbone to always keep them in games if their shots aren't falling. The Celtics offense can also light it up with the best of them though, and because of that, I'm going to roll with the Celtics tonight and lay the 6.5 points.
Yeah, I mean, I don't hate it. It's the exact reason that I picked Marcus Smart's over on points and assists. I just think that this is a nice game for the Celtics that just kind of fits them better. But I will make a point that it already has switched from 6.5 to 7.5. So keep an eye out on that. I do still think that they can cover that 7.5 spread, but just keep eye out. It is it's changing because people are realizing that it's a bit of a free pick right now.
A bit of a fugazi line.
It's a bit of a free pick. We'll go. I guess I won't be talking about a free pick, but I will be picking a pick. Wow, look at that about the podcast. It's going to be on the Denver Nuggets and this Kings game, and it's just because it's a very simple, I think, pick. I actually have like maybe 4 sentences written about this one compared to the rest. And it's just, these teams have played 3 times, and every single time the Nuggets have won by 5 or more, including an 18-point win was a first of a back-to-back against the Kings. And I just think this is a matchup that Jokic likes because both these teams play fairly slow. And whenever you let Jokic just sit down, take his time, and really just play methodically, he can get that nice and easy. And the spread is only -4. We still have that potential push, which I really like out there. And it's just nice. Now, I will say both of these teams aren't amazing at the spread when it comes to where they're going to be playing. Or, sorry, they're not amazing at the spread when they're at home or when they're away. But the Nuggets are crazy good away, and they're terrible at home. So I love the fact that these guys are in Sacramento. The Nuggets, I think, are 9-1 in their last 10 games at the spread, which is just great. And the Kings in general are just meh at the spread in these last few games. I mean, honestly, this Sabonis trade really hasn't seemed to do too much for these guys. They're still losing a lot of games. They just don't seem like they're still fully connected, because I think what's going on is Sabonis wants to play slow and Fox wants to play fast, and they've still been playing pretty slow. And again, when that happens, I think Jokic is just loving this matchup. He's gotten near a triple-double every single time against these guys. And the fact that they haven't lost to the Kings yet, and every single win has been by 5 or more, I just like this -4 here, especially with the fact that on the road, the Nuggets are 9-1 at the spread. It just kind of seems pretty easy pickings for me, at least.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't really have anything for that, to be honest. I had nothing in that game.
Yeah, it's
that Denver
Kings.
Sacramento game, I had nothing for that. I could not get a read on it. Like Jokic is gonna go off.
Yeah, it's just this game, this matchup, it just suits his play style.
Yeah, he's gonna go off, but like all of his lines are so egregious to bet, you just can't bet them, or not.
Yeah,
like can't feel comfortable in betting on it. Like I just don't. Yeah, and then like everything outside of Jokic, I just don't know what's gonna happen.
yeah, because I think with this this Denver team, Jokic has been obviously the superstar, the most consistent player every single game. But Will Barton, Gordon, Green, Monte Morris, Green again off the bench, and Bones Highland are all just kind of coming out there and putting out a consistent 10 to 15 points a game to help him out off of his passes. So it's just like, it's just been consistency throughout the like this entire lineup. And I just think against a Kings team who can't guard anybody, the fact that they have so many 10 to 15 point per game scorers, it just makes this one pretty easy, I think, for the Nuggets.
And to be quite perfectly honest with you, like from Toronto, I don't watch a ton of Sacramento or Denver.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Like Denver, I watch a little bit of. They're so Jokic centric. It's just like the guy that's gonna go off in that game outside of Jokic is gonna be whoever the other team decides to leave open.
I will say Denver is so much more fun to watch, obviously, when they have Michael Porter Jr. and they have Jamal Murray.
Yeah,
without them, it's
fun
just
to watch.
It's not a draw. But like last year in the playoffs, watching those guys, amazing.
And like Sacramento, I have no interest in watching them. And I don't think I've even watched a game this season with them. So I never bet on Sacramento games. I just avoid them usually.
That's fair enough. But still, I'll be taking the -4 on the Nuggets because I like the push potential, and I just like the fact that they've liked this matchup, period. So
I would probably lean that way.
Yeah, so we're going to actually switch it over to our quick image showing because we can, and I'll just cover up with this nice little player props, cheat sheet that Jer has set up for us, and we can just kind of talk some of these over. I'm going to look at them. So Marcus Smart, we've already covered that over on assists. I'm doing points and assists, but I think the just assist works pretty well for him. Jason Tatum, he said avoid points because he really hasn't played well against Charlotte this year. So it is a iffy one as well because he did just drop 54. So it is an iffy one, but I think what it should say is just kind of avoid betting on his points, not avoid any because this one said
I would like that's what I was intending. Like I would lean under with his with his performances against Charlotte this year, but with his recent performances, I would lean over. So I would probably just. Me personally, I would avoid that total.
Yeah, I would focus on some other guys like maybe Jaylen Brown getting into it. Marcus Smart, love him. But yeah, that Tatum on points is a bit iffy. Miles Bridges, the over on assists, that's kind of just like a podcast play that we have at this point. Bridges over on assists, over on points and assists, whatever you like. You can take alternate spreads as well. But 3.5 assists is pretty typical for Bridges. I will say this matchup against the Celtics is a bit iffy because they are so good defensively. You never know how the Hornets are going to hit shots off of his passes. But in general, this is a pretty consistent podcast play for us. Jerry said a little bit that this LaMelo Ball play is probably one of his favorites, the points, rebounds, and assists over on LaMelo, just because he's actually kind of cooked the Celtics this year. It's kind of wild. You wouldn't think he'd be able to, but
it's actually not that he's cooked the Celtics. He's just fired up bricks, and enough of them have gone in, to be honest with you. Like,
well, he's been passing well and getting a lot of boards against them as well.
Like, he had one, like, he actually had, like, that 38-point game was actually a fairly efficient game.
Yeah.
Or a very efficient game, actually. But the 25 and the triple-double weren't, like, they weren't horrible. But, like, he was just firing up, like, he was shooting, like, 40% or whatever.
Yeah. The Sadiq Bey crazy. Over on assists. I mean, that's just free money. That's our Sadiq Bey bet every night. Bet it every night. Yep, you see the Pistons playing. Go Sadiq Bey over on 2.5 assists. It's failed us twice in the last 10 games, but I mean, come on, that's still good odds. You're making money on 8 games. Out of 10, we'll be fine. Cade Cunningham, I like this one, the over on points. Cade Cunningham has been hooping lately. Now, it is set at 19.5, so you're betting on Cade to hit 20, but for most of the season, he's been able to get around 15. So I think this one is pretty nice considering they're also playing the Bulls, who right now without Lonzo and Alex Caruso just don't have the greatest of guard defense. So I think if there's a time to bet on the Cade over against the Bulls, it's probably right now. The Heat, Gabe Vincent on points. Now, this big, bold one, the check on Lowry's status. You need to make sure if Lowry's playing, this one is iffy. But if Lowry isn't playing, I think this is a guarantee go and bet on Gabe Vincent over in points. We were watching the last game, and oh my God, is this guy a hooper. 7 points in 3 minutes. This guy is crazy.
Yeah, so this one actually, I think it will be interesting to actually look, and I honestly don't think books will put this prop up. But if you see it and you know if Lowry is either in, bet the under. If he's out, bet the over. If he's out, the prop will obviously be up. But like, I think, because like he only played, like Joe said, only played 3 minutes in his last game. So I don't know if the books will be putting the prop up because he's kind of like the 9th, 10th, 11th man in the rotation. He only played 3 minutes because they were down or up, whatever they were up. But yeah, I think that one's interesting just to maybe play as kind of like a cheater prop if Lowry's in, and he may not even, like, he probably won't even see enough minutes to go over.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. The next one that we got right here is two Suns plays, DeAndre Ayton and campaign. I think another one that's interesting to look at that he doesn't have listed is Mikal Bridges. He has been kind of around his numbers, hasn't really gone over too much, but has been right on the cusp. But I think these three guys are the three guys who really are just there for the Suns. But it is a bit of a tough matchup against Bam Adebayo and the Heat. But really, who else do they have to score other than Ayton, Bridges, and who else is going to pass the rock other than campaign? So I think these three are pretty consistent. I think Payne had himself an absolute hooper of a night. So we love that. We love the misspelling of Trae Young on the Hawks points and assists. It is Trae for anybody that is wondering. He spelled Trey for the audio listeners. But the points and assists, they give a lot of points in general, and they've also been just not playing great recently. Giannis points and rebounds. He has 25 plus in both games against the Hawks this year. His free throw line's been great. I will say John Collins is back in the lineup, and they do have a lot of depth now at the big man position. But obviously, this Bucks team usually doesn't win without a great performance.
John Collins is back?
John Collins is back on the Hawks.
Bet the over.
Mavericks, Luka Doncic, we already covered that. Points, rebound, assists on the under. That is just no thank you. I love this one. Gary Trent Jr. points and 3-pointers made against them. There's no Malachi Flynn and no Fred VanVleet, as well as no OG Anunoby. So Gary Trent has the green light to chuck out whatever the hell he wants, and he's probably going to play around 40 minutes.
You know who's playing point guard for the Raptors right now?
It better be Gary Trent.
Nope.
Who?
It's your boy Scotty Barnes.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Scotty Barnes is running point guard.
Anyway, the next. I love this one. There's no line out right now, which is why it wasn't a podcast play, but it was something that I was eyeing to make a podcast play if it was out. DeJounte Murray under in points. Toronto is just great defensively. I do think it may be a bit weaker because there's no Freddie out there, but in general, Toronto just has a really nice team defense.
Scotty Barnes guarding the point guard now.
Yeah, and I think Raptors is a good team defense, so it really doesn't matter what position. I generally just don't like betting because I think they actually are 8th least points allowed in the league are the Raptors, so they just really don't give up a lot of scoring opportunities to other teams.
I think they also allow the 3rd least points to point guards.
Yeah, which is just great. Nuggets, Nikola Jokic, the unders, point, rebounds, and assists. We do think that he's going to have a great game, but I think there's another one like Luka where it's around 50.5 or 49.5. It's just way too high to really bet. The safe bet is just to go under on there. And De'Aaron Fox, the over on points, just because, I mean, there's two main scorers on this team, De'Aaron Fox and Sabonis, and Fox has actually been a bit of a heater. He's hit it 16 out of his last 20 games at 24.5. It's just pretty simple and easy. And because this is essentially going to be one of the longest podcasts we've ever recorded, we're going to quickly get that daily pick screen for you guys and be right back with that. All right, so here are today's picks. Luka Doncic under 50.5 points, rebounds, and assists at -104. Capitals money line versus the Oilers at +110. Canadiens versus the Canucks over 6 at -115. Marcus Smart over 19.5 points and assists at -113. Nuggets -4 versus the Kings at -112. And the Celtics at a -6.5 spread versus the Hornets at -110. Although keep an eye out on that one because it may change a little bit. I think it's tied for the most podcast plays we've had on it and the longest podcast as well. Hopefully we can start it out with a nice hot 0-6 because, I like to say that we have some bad bets to hopefully reverse psychology of the gods into giving them to us. So 0-6 night for us, or at least 0-3 night for me. We'll see how it goes. Anyway, if Bombs has anything left to say before we leave, he can do that. And if not, I'll segue that.
Let's go 0-4.
0-6?
0-6. I'll go 0-4.
You have 3.
I have 4.
Oh, wait, you do have 4. I lied. You have, what? Did I forget one of yours? I might have forgot one of yours.
I have the Clippers at -4.5.
Oh, I forgot your Clippers.
-110.
All right, well, we have Clippers -1 out. We'll fix it.
It'll be updated on Twitter tomorrow.
It'll be updated on Twitter tomorrow. We forgot it. It was so obvious that the Clippers were going to lose. We just forgot it. Anyway, if you're listening on YouTube, like button, comment what you guys think, and hit that subscribe as well. If you're listening on any of the podcast platforms, make sure you leave us a wonderful 5-star review. Go out there, make some bets, and make some money.
See ya! And the Clippers aren't losing.